At exactly 7:14 on a rainy Tuesday evening, someone knocked on my door. 3 slow knocks. Not loud, not urgent, just deliberate. The kind of knock that somehow makes you stop whatever you're doing. I remember checking the clock on my microwave because I was halfway through heating leftover pasta. 7:14 p.m. The rain hammered against the windows of my apartment. Thunder rolled somewhere in the distance. I wasn't expecting anyone. I lived alone. Had for years. Most of my friends texted before showing up. My family lived in another state. And salespeople never climbed all the way to the 3rd floor of my building. The knock came again. 3 times. Slow. Patient. I walked toward the door. For some reason, a strange feeling settled in my stomach. I looked through the peephole and froze. A little girl stood in the hallway, maybe 8 years old, dark brown hair, blue raincoat, small backpack hanging from one shoulder. She wasn't crying. She wasn't scared. She was simply standing there, waiting. I opened the door. The girl looked up at me. Our eyes met. Then she said 6 words that changed my life forever. "Are you my daddy?" Everything inside me stopped. "What?" She tilted her head. "Are you Daniel Carter?" My heart skipped. "Yes." The girl smiled. Then I found the right person. I stared at her. Rainwater dripped from her coat onto the hallway floor. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then I finally managed to ask, "Who are you?" "My name is Lily." "Okay." She nodded, then repeated her question. "Are you my daddy?" "No." The answer came instantly, because I knew it was impossible. I had never been married, never had children, at least none that I knew about. The girl frowned. "Mom said you would help me." A chill crawled down my spine. "What mom?" But Lily shook her head. "I can't tell you yet." Yet? What did that even mean? I glanced down the hallway. No adults. No parents. Nobody. Just me and a child standing in front of my apartment. "Lily, where are your parents?" Silence. "Where do you live?" "Nothing." "Did someone bring you here?" She looked down at the floor, then quietly said, "I walked." I felt sick. An 8-year-old girl had somehow appeared at my door during a thunderstorm and knew my full name. None of this made sense. "Come inside." 10 minutes later, Lily sat at my kitchen table, wrapped in a blanket. I made her hot chocolate. She held the mug with both hands. The situation felt unreal, like I was trapped inside someone else's story. "Lily." She looked up. "What do you know me?" "You drive a blue Honda." I blinked. "What?" "You leave for work at 7:30. My stomach tightened. "You've seen me before?" She shook her head. "You don't like mushrooms." I stared. "What?" "And you always buy the same cereal." The mug nearly slipped from my hand. Those weren't guesses. Those were facts. Personal facts. Details strangers shouldn't know. "Who told you that?" "My mom." "Who is your mom?" Again, she lowered her eyes. "I can't tell you." An hour later, I called the police. Officer Reynolds arrived shortly after. He looked exhausted, middle-aged, kind eyes. The type of cop who had probably seen everything. At least that's what I thought. Until he met Lily. "What's going on here?" I explained everything. The knock, the questions, the strange details. Officer Reynolds crouched beside Lily. "Hi there." "Hi. Can you tell me where your parents are?" "No." "Do you know your address?" "No." "Do you know your last name?" She hesitated, then quietly answered, "Lily Morgan." The officer wrote it down. "Good." He smiled gently. "And where does Mrs. Morgan live?" Silence. For nearly a minute. Finally, Lily whispered, "She's gone." Something about the way she said it made the room suddenly feel colder. "What do you mean gone?" Reynolds asked softly. No answer. The officer glanced at me. I could tell he was concerned. So was I, very concerned. 2 hours later, things became even stranger. The police database found no missing child report, no emergency alerts, no active investigations. Nothing. It was as if Lily had appeared out of nowhere. Then Officer Reynolds discovered something else. There aren't any recent records matching her description. What does that mean? He rubbed his forehead. It means we can't find a family. My pulse quickened. What? School records are incomplete. Medical records are limited. It's strange. Strange. That was becoming the word of the night. Just when I thought things couldn't get weirder, Lily opened her backpack. Mom wanted you to have this. She placed an old photograph on the table. I picked it up and nearly dropped it. The picture showed me, not current me, a younger version, maybe 22, standing beside a woman. A woman I immediately recognized. My breath caught. Claire. Claire Harper. The woman I had loved 10 years ago. The woman who vanished from my life without explanation. The woman I hadn't seen in almost a decade. The photograph was impossible because I had never seen it before. I would have remembered. Claire stood beside me smiling, my arm around her shoulders. Both of us happy, young, in love, and standing between us was a little girl. A little girl who looked exactly like Lily. My hands began shaking. No, I whispered. No, no, no. The date written on the back made even less sense. July 2018. Lily would have been born already. Yet I had never met her, never seen her, never even known she existed. Officer Reynolds looked over my shoulder. Who's Claire? I swallowed. My ex. The officer's expression changed. How long ago? 10 years. His eyes narrowed. And for the first time that night, a terrifying possibility entered my mind. Could Lily belong to Claire? Could she be my daughter? I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, questions flooded my mind. Who was Lily? Where had she come from? Why did she know so much about me? And why did Claire seem connected to all of it? The next morning, I started searching. Social media, old contacts, mutual friends, anyone who might know where Claire was. Most hadn't spoken to her in years. Others never replied. Then around noon, I finally reached someone, a former college friend named Megan. Daniel. Megan. Oh my God. Listen. My voice trembled. I need information about Claire. The silence that followed lasted too long. Megan. Her voice softened. You don't know. A terrible feeling settled inside me. Know what? Megan sighed. Daniel. What happened? Another pause. Then she said words I wasn't prepared to hear. Claire died 3 months ago. The room spun. What? She was sick. No. I'm sorry. No. Because it couldn't be true. Claire was 32. Healthy. Strong. Full of life. People like Claire weren't supposed to die. Yet somehow she had. And suddenly Lily's appearance became even more mysterious. If Claire was gone, then why had she sent her to me? And what exactly had Claire been hiding all these years? I thought I was finally getting answers. Instead, every clue was creating even bigger questions. Questions that would soon uncover secrets buried for more than a decade. Secrets that would completely change both my life and Lily's. And the first letter from Claire was about to reveal something neither of us expected. The moment I hung up the phone with Megan, I just sat there. I couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't process what I'd just heard. Claire was dead. The woman I had once imagined spending my life with was gone. 10 years of unanswered questions suddenly became permanent. There would be no phone call, no unexpected reunion, no explanation. At least that's what I thought. Until Lily quietly walked into the living room. She was holding something, a small wooden box, dark oak, worn around the edges. My heart skipped. What's that? Lily hugged the box tightly. Mom said I should only give it to you when you found out she was gone. I stared at her. She actually said that? Lily nodded. I carefully took the box. There was a tiny brass lock on the front, but it wasn't locked. My fingers trembled as I lifted the lid. Inside were letters, dozens of them. Every envelope had my name written across the front. Daniel. Just seeing Claire's handwriting after all these years nearly broke me. I picked up the first envelope. The paper felt old, The date written in the corner was only 4 months old. My chest tightened. I opened it and began reading. Dear Daniel, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. I always hoped I would have the courage to tell you everything myself. But life doesn't always give us the endings we want. Before you continue reading, I need you to know one thing. I never stopped loving you. Not for a single day. Tears immediately filled my eyes. I swallowed hard and continued. I know you have questions. You deserve answers. But please trust me. Read the letters in order. And most importantly, take care of Lily. She will need you now more than ever. Love always, Claire. I stare at the page. Take care of Lily. Not your daughter. Not our daughter. Just Lily. It was strange. Very strange. That night, I barely slept. Lily was staying in the guest room. The police had temporarily allowed it while they continued searching for relatives. Apparently, no immediate family members could be located. Nobody had reported her missing. Nobody had come looking for her. The entire situation felt impossible. At 2 a.m., I found myself sitting alone in the kitchen reading the second letter. Daniel, by now you're probably wondering if Lily is your daughter. The answer isn't simple. I need you to keep reading before making assumptions. There are things you don't know, things I never told you, things I was afraid to tell anyone. I folded the letter shut. My head was spinning. Every answer seemed designed to create even more questions. The next morning, I decided to investigate the photograph. The strange one showing me, Claire, and Lily together. I took it to a photography studio owned by an elderly man named Walter. He had spent 40 years restoring old photographs. If anyone could tell me whether it was fake, it was him. Walter studied it for several minutes, then looked up. Where did you get this? What? It's real. I frowned. What do you mean real? I mean nobody edited this. A chill ran through me. The photo is authentic. My stomach dropped. That's impossible. Walter shrugged. Maybe, but the picture was taken years ago. Looks that way. I don't remember it. Walter looked back at the image, then pointed toward the background. Interesting. What? Look here. I leaned closer. My pulse quickened. Standing in the distance, behind us was a man, partially hidden by a tree, watching, not smiling, not posing, just watching. The image suddenly felt disturbing, very disturbing. Who was he? And why had I never noticed it before? The next clue arrived unexpectedly. 3 days later, a social worker called. Mr. Carter? Yes. We found records connected to Lily. I sat upright. What kind of records? A school registration form. Finally, an actual lead. And the woman hesitated. Her legal guardian was Claire Harper. My heart pounded. So Lily lived with Claire? Yes. Was Claire her mother? We're still trying to determine that. I rubbed my forehead. Nothing was ever simple. Nothing. That evening, Lily sat beside me on the couch watching cartoons. For the first time since she arrived, she looked comfortable, safe, happy. I realized something surprising. I was starting to care about her. A lot. Which scared me. Because if someone eventually came to claim her, she would leave. And somehow that thought hurt. Danny. I looked over. It was the first time she called me that. Yeah. Can I ask something? Of course. She hesitated, then quietly asked, why didn't you come find us? The question hit like a punch. What? Mom cried sometimes. I felt my chest tighten. She did. Lily nodded. Usually at night. What did she say? The little girl looked down. She said she missed you. For several seconds, I couldn't speak. Because I missed Claire too. More than I had ever admitted. The next letter changed everything. Absolutely everything. I opened it after Lily went to sleep. And by the second paragraph, I nearly dropped it. Daniel, you think I left you. But the truth is, I never wanted to. 10 years ago, I discovered something that terrified me. Someone was following me, watching me. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Then the letters started arriving. Anonymous letters. Warnings. Threats. I sat frozen. Threats. My eyes raced across the page. I tried going to the police. Nothing happened. Then one night a man approached me outside my apartment. He knew your name. He knew where you worked. He knew everything. He told me something I'll never forget. If you stay with Daniel, he'll get hurt. My heart began pounding. The room suddenly felt smaller, hotter, more suffocating. I continued reading. I believed him. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was weak. But I couldn't risk losing you. So I disappeared. Not because I stopped loving you. Because I loved you too much. I stared at the letter, speechless. For 10 years, I had believed Claire abandoned me. And now she was telling me she'd been protecting me. But protecting me from whom? And why? The next day, another clue surfaced. One that sent the entire investigation in a completely different direction. Officer Reynolds called. Daniel. His voice sounded tense. We found someone. My pulse quickened. Who? A former neighbor of Claire's. What did they say? A pause. Then, they claimed Claire wasn't Lily's biological mother. I nearly dropped the phone. What? Apparently Claire adopted her. Everything stopped. The room. The noise. Even my breathing. Because if Claire wasn't Lily's mother, then who was? And why had she spent years raising her? More importantly, why send her to me? Nothing made sense anymore. Not the photograph. Not the letters. Not the secrets. Not Lily. Yet somehow every road still led back to Claire. And deep down, I knew the next letter would reveal something even bigger. Because written across the front of the next envelope were 6 words that made my blood run cold. The truth about Lily's father. And suddenly, I wasn't sure I wanted to know what came next. For almost an hour, I stared at the envelope. The truth about Lily's father. Those 6 words felt heavier than anything I had ever read. Outside, rain tapped softly against the windows. Lily was asleep upstairs. The apartment was silent. And yet my heart was pounding so loudly it felt impossible that nobody else could hear it. Finally, I opened the letter. Daniel, if you've reached this letter, then you've already learned that Lily isn't my biological daughter. What you're about to read will be difficult to believe. It was difficult for me too. 8 years ago, I volunteered at a children's shelter. One rainy evening, a little girl was brought in by social services. She barely spoke. She was terrified of everyone. The only thing she carried was a stuffed rabbit and a small silver necklace. That little girl was Lily. I frowned. My eyes moved faster across the page. The authorities spent months searching for her family. No one came. No one claimed her. No one even reported her missing. It was as if she had appeared from nowhere. And the more I learned about her situation, the more convinced I became that something wasn't right. My stomach tightened. This wasn't heading where I expected. Not at all. The next pages described Claire's growing attachment to Lily. She visited constantly, read stories to her, helped her learn to trust people again. Eventually, she adopted her. Legally, officially, completely. But then came the part that changed everything. One day, Lily showed me a photograph. A photograph she had hidden for years. And Daniel, you were in it. I sat up straighter. My pulse accelerated. Claire continued. At first, I thought it was a coincidence. Then I looked closer. The photograph had been taken years before I met Lily. Yet somehow it contained both of you. I couldn't explain it. Neither could the investigators I hired. Investigators. I kept reading. Yes, Daniel. I hired private investigators. For years. Because the deeper I looked, the stranger things became. The room suddenly felt cold. Claire hadn't simply adopted Lily. She had investigated her. For years. Why? The next morning, I drove to the address listed in one of Claire's notes. A small town nearly 2 hours away. The investigator she'd hired had long since retired. His office occupied a tiny building beside a hardware store. The sign outside read, Martin Reeves, Private Investigations. The bell above the door rang as I entered. An elderly man looked up from a newspaper. Can I help you? My name is Daniel Carter. The moment he heard my name, his expression changed. Very slightly, but enough for me to notice. Claire Harper sent me. The newspaper slowly lowered. For several seconds, he simply stared. Then he sighed. Took longer than I expected. My heartbeat quickened. You knew this day would come? Eventually, I sat down. I need answers. Martin studied me carefully, then nodded. Claire said you'd ask that. 2 hours later, my entire understanding of the situation had shattered. Because according to Martin, Claire never believed Lily's background story. Not for a second. There were inconsistencies, missing records, altered documents, witnesses who disappeared, people who suddenly refused to talk. Every lead ended the same way, a dead end, as if someone had deliberately erased Lily's past. Who would do that? I asked. Martin leaned back. Someone powerful. I felt a chill. What are you talking about? The old investigator opened a drawer, then handed me a file. A thick file. Very thick. Inside were years of notes, photographs, reports, witness statements, and one particular name appeared over and over again. Richard Hale. I frowned. The name sounded familiar. Very familiar. Then it hit me. Richard Hale was one of the wealthiest businessmen in the state. A local celebrity. A philanthropist. A respected public figure. What does he have to do with Lily? Martin's expression darkened. That's what Claire spent years trying to discover. That night, I couldn't stop thinking. Every answer led to more questions. Every clue opened another mystery. And through it all, Lily remained the center of everything. Yet she still knew almost nothing about her own past. The following evening, I finally decided to ask her directly. We sat on a balcony watching the sunset. Lily, yeah. Do you remember anything before Claire adopted you? She was quiet, very quiet. Then she nodded. A little. My heart jumped. What do you remember? Her eyes focused somewhere far away. I remember a big house. I leaned forward. What else? A woman. Your mother? I don't know. Her voice became softer. I remember being scared. I swallowed. Why? The little girl wrapped her arms around herself. There was yelling. My pulse quickened. Who was yelling? I don't know. What happened? Lily's eyes filled with tears. I don't remember. And suddenly I realized something heartbreaking. This wasn't just a mystery. This was trauma. A child had lived through something terrible, something her mind still couldn't fully process. 3 days later, another letter arrived. This one had been hidden inside the wooden box. I hadn't noticed it before. The envelope contained only a single page, but the words nearly stopped my heart. Daniel, there's something I never told Lily. I discovered who her biological father is. I stared, then continued, but I was never able to prove it. Not completely. That's why I need you to finish what I started. Because if I'm right, Lily is still in danger. My blood ran cold. Danger. 8 years after being adopted. What kind of danger? And from whom? That same night, something happened. Something that transformed the entire investigation. I woke around 2 a.m. A strange feeling had pulled me from sleep. At first, I didn't know why. Then I heard it. A sound. Outside. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Moving beneath my apartment window. I carefully approached the curtain. Then looked down. A man stood on the sidewalk, watching the building, watching my apartment. My stomach dropped. The man wasn't moving, wasn't walking, wasn't smoking, just standing there, looking up, directly at my window. And when he realized I'd seen him, he smiled, then walked away, into the darkness. The next morning, I found an envelope taped to my door. No stamp, no address, no return name. Just one sentence typed across a white sheet of paper. Stop investigating Lily. The warning felt disturbingly familiar. The same kind of warning Claire had described years earlier, which meant one terrifying possibility. Maybe Claire hadn't imagined being followed. Maybe someone really had been watching her for years. And now, They were watching me too. Later that afternoon, Officer Reynolds called. His voice sounded different, more serious than usual. Daniel, what happened? We got a DNA result. I froze. What result? A partial match. My pulse exploded. A match to who? Silence. Then Reynolds spoke, and the name he said nearly caused me to drop the phone. Richard Hale, the businessman, the millionaire, the man from Martin's investigation. The room spun, because suddenly, for the first time, the pieces were beginning to connect. But not in the way I expected. Not at all. And deep down, I knew the truth waiting at the center of this mystery was far bigger than any of us imagined. Because Lily wasn't just connected to Richard Hale. She was connected to a secret someone had been willing to hide for nearly a decade. A secret powerful enough to destroy lives. And Claire had died trying to uncover it. The question was, had she discovered the truth before it was too late? Or had she left that final piece for me to find? And somewhere in the growing darkness surrounding Lily's past, the answer was waiting. The name Richard Hale echoed through my mind for days. The DNA result made no sense. Why would one of the richest and most influential men in the state be connected to Lily? And why had Claire spent years investigating him? I needed answers. Fast. The next morning, I drove to Martin Reeves' office again. When I showed him the DNA report, the old investigator's face turned pale. I was afraid of this. You knew. I suspected. I slammed the report onto his desk. Then tell me the truth. Martin stared at the papers, then slowly opened a locked drawer. Inside was a file thicker than any I'd seen before. Written across the front were 3 words, Hale Family File. My heart raced. Martin pushed it toward me. Claire was closer to the truth than she realized. Inside were photographs, bank records, witness interviews, private notes, and one shocking revelation. 8 years earlier, Richard Hale's daughter had vanished. Not publicly, not in the news. The disappearance had been hidden, covered up, buried. Nobody outside the family knew. The little girl was 3 years old. Her name was Lily. I stopped breathing. What? Martin nodded slowly. Claire believed Lily was Richard Hale's granddaughter. The room spun. Granddaughter. Not daughter. Granddaughter. The file contained another photograph. A younger woman holding a child. The child was Lily. There was no doubt. Same eyes. Same smile. Same face. Who's the woman? Martin hesitated. Richard Hale's daughter. What happened to her? His voice lowered. She died under suspicious circumstances. A chill ran through me. Everything was becoming darker. Much darker. That night, I told Officer Reynolds everything. He listened carefully, then sighed. Daniel, we've been looking into Hale. And we found financial records. My pulse quickened. What kind? Payments. To who? Private investigators. My stomach tightened. The same kind Claire hired. The same kind Martin used. Someone had been searching for Lily for years. Years. Yet somehow nobody had ever found her. Or maybe someone had found her and kept quiet. Later that evening, Lily handed me something. A folded drawing. I made this. I smiled, then froze. The drawing showed a large house, a garden, a fountain, and a woman standing beside a tree. My heart skipped. Lily. She looked up. What? Have you drawn this before? She shook her head. No. Where is it? I don't know. I stared at the picture, then at the file photographs. The house was identical. Exactly identical. The Hale estate. A place Lily had supposedly forgotten. Yet somehow she remembered it. Somewhere deep inside. 3 days later, I found a final, unopened letter from Claire. The last one. The envelope looked older than the others, as though she'd rewritten it many times. My hands trembled as I opened it, because I somehow knew everything was about to change. And it did. The very first sentence shattered every theory I'd built. Daniel, if you're reading this, then you've discovered Richard Hale. But he's not the person you should be afraid of. Someone else is. I stared, then continued. Richard spent years searching for Lily. Not to hurt her, to save her. The room went silent. What? Everything Claire had written suggested the opposite. Yet now she was saying Hale wasn't the villain. The next pages explained everything. Years ago, Hale's daughter had become involved with a dangerous man. A man connected to fraud, violence, and organized crime. When she tried to leave him, she disappeared. Months later, she was found dead. Lily vanished soon afterward. Richard believed the same people were responsible. And for years, he searched desperately for his granddaughter. The entire story had been backward. Completely backward. Richard Hale wasn't hunting Lily. He was looking for her, trying to protect her. And Claire had eventually learned the truth. But there was still one question left. The biggest question of all. Why me? Why had Claire chosen me? The answer waited on the final page. And it brought tears to my eyes before I even finished reading. Daniel, by now you've probably asked yourself why I sent Lily to you. The answer is simple. Because you're the best man I have ever known. I stopped reading. My vision blurred. I wiped my eyes and continued. When I became sick, I had to make a choice. I knew I wasn't going to survive. I knew Lily would be alone. And I knew there was only one person I trusted completely. You. Not because you were a father. Because you didn't need to be. Because the greatest lesson life ever taught me is that family isn't created by blood. It's created by love. Tears rolled down my face. For several moments, I couldn't continue. Then I forced myself to finish. Lily knows you as a hero because I spent years telling her about you. Every bedtime story, every difficult day, every moment she asked whether good people still existed. I told her about Daniel, the man who never stopped caring, the man who always protected people, the man I never stopped loving. And if you're reading this, then she found you, which means I was right. Goodbye, Daniel. Take care of our girl. Love always, Claire. I sat there for a long time. Hours, maybe, thinking about everything. The mystery, the lies, the years we'd lost, the questions that would never be answered. But one truth remained. Claire had trusted me with the most important thing in her life. Lily. Months passed. The investigation eventually ended. Richard Hale was located. The DNA test confirmed the truth. Lily was his granddaughter. He cried the first time he met her. Actually cried. A 70-year-old man sitting across from an 8-year-old girl. Both of them strangers. Both of them family. But something unexpected happened. After several visits, Lily pulled me aside. Danny? Yeah. Can I ask something? Anything. She looked nervous. Very nervous. Do I have to leave? My heart broke. What do you mean? Everybody keeps talking about family. She stared at the floor. But you're my family. I couldn't speak. For several seconds, I simply looked at her. Then she whispered, I don't want another dad. The tears came instantly. Because in that moment I realized something. Somewhere along the way, she had become my daughter. Not legally, not biologically, but in every way that mattered. Richard understood too. More than I expected. One afternoon, he invited me to lunch. The old man stared quietly out the restaurant window, then finally spoke. She loves you. I swallowed. I love her too. He nodded. I know. Silence settled between us. Then he smiled sadly. My daughter would have wanted that. I looked down. I never meant to replace anyone. You're not replacing anyone. His eyes filled with tears. You're giving her what I can't. 6 months later, I stood inside a courthouse. My hand shook. Lily stood beside me holding my hand. The judge smiled. Congratulations. I looked down at her. She looked up at me. And then, for the first time, she said the word I'd been dreaming about for months. Dad. Just one word. One simple word. It hit harder than anything I'd ever heard. I knelt beside her. Neither of us could stop crying. Hey. Yeah. I love you. Her small arms wrapped around my neck. I love you too, Dad. That evening, we drove home together. The sunset painted the sky orange and gold. Lily sat in the passenger seat, eating ice cream, talking nonstop, laughing, happy. For the first time in years, I felt whole. Not because every mystery had been solved, not because life had suddenly become perfect, but because Claire had been right. Family isn't about blood. It isn't about DNA. It isn't about sharing a name. Family is the person who stays, the person who chooses you, the person who loves you even when they don't have to. As we pulled into the driveway, Lily reached over and squeezed my hand. And in that moment, I realized something beautiful. The little girl who had arrived on a rainy Tuesday, asking if I was her daddy, had given me the one thing I never knew I was missing: a daughter. And sometimes the greatest families aren't the ones we're born into. They're the ones that find us when we need them most.